Good day to you once again, my listener. My name is Bayo. You're welcome to my YouTube channel where we teach logic and critical thinking. If this is your first time on this channel, please like, share, and subscribe for more updates and episodes. Let us take us back to our previous episode where we discussed an overview of logic and critical thinking. In our previous episode, we did an introduction to logic and critical thinking, the relationship of logic with philosophy, and the importance of logic in our daily life and our daily encounters. However, today in our second episode, we're going to be learning the basic concepts of logic, and we are going to be starting with propositions. If you're new to logic and critical thinking, please take your time to study our first episode on this channel. This should give you a background to what we did in the first episode. And let me remind you once again, there is nothing difficult in logic. However, we need to keep taking it a step at a time so as not to miss our understanding of specific concepts and terminologies we employ in this lesson. If there is anything you don't understand from my lesson, please use the comment box below. I'll be shedding more light on them in my subsequent episode. Thank you. And so we may ask ourselves, what are propositions and what relationship do they have with arguments as employed in logic? We're going to be making this a little bit fun so that we have a better understanding. You see, in logic and critical thinking, we construct and evaluate arguments. But then arguments are made up of propositions. However, you find out that every statement we make, for every sentence we make, they are giving us information that something is the case, or they are saying something is not the case. So for this reason, we say propositions are statements that can either be true or false, which is just a simple basic thing about proposition. But then it has a particular structure, which we're going to be discussing later on. So we're saying propositions are statements that can either be true or false. They assert that something is, or they assert that something is not. So it means that the proposition cannot be true and false at the same time. So we should note that. Like we said earlier, our propositions are found in our statements, our sentences, and our discussions. Since our propositions are found from these statements and discussions, how do we recognize them? What are the major components of a proposition? What are those things we look out for when we're looking for a proposition? It is worthy to note that a proposition has three major components that we must look out for. It must have a subject, it must have a predicate, and it must have a nexus or a copula. The subject is the noun or noun phrase that is the focus of the sentence, and the predicate is the verb or the verb phrase that describes what the subject is doing or what is happening to it. The copula or linking verb is the verb that connects the subject to a complement or attribute that describes or identifies it. Let us look at the statement, the car is fast. The above is an example of a proposition because it is either true or false. It asserts that something is the case, and it has the three basic components of what a proposition is. For instance, the car here is the subject. Fast, which is the verb, is the predicate. Is the copula or nexus. In our example, the car is fast. The car is the subject, and the subject is generally a noun. A look at it, you'll see that the subject term indicated by letter S is the category about which something is being said. In this same example, the car is fast. The word fast is the predicate. The predicate is a complement, which is usually an adjective. The predicate term indicated by letter P is what is being said of the subject. A look at this, you'll find out that the predicate fast says something about the car, which is the subject. It gives us information about the car. In this example, the car is fast. Is a nexus or copula. The nexus or copula is often defined as that which expresses the relationship between the subject term and the predicate term of a proposition. It is usually a verb as be, seem, or look that serves as a connecting link or establishes an identity between the subject and the complement. The word such as is not, are, and are not are also called copulas because they connect the subject and predicate. Sometimes in a statement or sentence, it is possible to find more than one preposition in it. And this brings us to the notion of simple and compound prepositions. A simple statement or proposition is a statement where the subject or predicate has no connectives. In other words, a proposition is considered simple if it cannot be broken into sub-propositions. On the other hand, a compound proposition is made up of two or more propositions joined by connectives, that it either has more than one subject or more than one predicate or both. For instance, the car is fast is an example of a simple proposition because it has just a subject and a predicate. While the example, the car is fast and beautiful, is an example of a compound proposition because the predicate is more than just one predicate and has a connective, and the connective is and. It is worthy to note that it is a compound proposition because it can be broken down into simple propositions. If you are to break this now, it will mean the car is fast, a simple proposition. The car is beautiful, another simple proposition. Another example we can look at is the example, the car and the house are beautiful. For instance, we can see that there is more than one subject, the car and the house. To break this down further, we can say the car is beautiful. That's proposition 1. The house is beautiful. That's proposition. It is worthy to note that we have 3 types of propositions. We have analytic propositions, we have synthetic propositions, and we have what we call synthetic a priori propositions. I'm going to be explaining this in our next slide. Analytic propositions are propositions that are true by analysis. In logic, we say they are statements that are necessarily true purely on logical grounds and serves only to elucidate the meaning already implicit in the subject. By this, we mean the predicate is only given the meaning already contained in the subject, which means the predicate is saying exactly the meaning of what the subject is. And by this, the predicate gives no new information about the subject. It is worthy to note that denying the truth of an analytic proposition leads to self-contradiction. For example, a bachelor is a married man. In this example, we'll find out that the meaning of a bachelor is a man who is unmarried. Therefore, to say that a bachelor is not an unmarried man would mean a self-contradiction because you are mentioning bachelor and at the same time saying the bachelor is unmarried, which is self-contradiction. So to deny the truth of an analytic proposition will lead to you contradicting yourself. Another example here is all squares have 4 sides. The notion of a square implies having 4 sides. So the predicate 4 sides is the meaning of what a square is, which is the subject. The second type of proposition that we are talking about today is the synthetic proposition. In logic, a synthetic proposition is a declarative statement in which the predicate asserts something that is not already contained or explicit in the subject. We can only know the truthfulness of such statements only by observation or experience. And when we deny the truth of such statements, it does not necessarily mean we are self-contradicting. A synthetic proposition is not necessarily a true proposition. It is a proposition that is capable of being true or false based on the fact about the word or experience. The true function of a synthetic proposition requires experience or conformity with the state of affairs. For instance, the car is on the mat. To know the truthfulness of this proposition, we need to verify if truly the cat is on the mat. Then we will go to wherever the cat is and we'll find out the cat is on the mat. Then we'll say the proposition is true. And if the car is not on the mat, then the proposition is false. Another example is my brother is tall. We need an experience to know the notion of tallness of a brother, and by this we will find out that the statements can be true or false because it requires experience or observation to know or to judge it to be true or false. A synthetic a priori propositions are propositions that are a little bit complicated. Complicated because they are a combination of two types of propositions. We already know what a synthetic proposition is. A priori propositions, on the other hand, are like the analytic proposition, but they are known basically by reasoning, not by definition per se, but they are by reasoning known to be true. Thus, the combination of a synthetic a priori proposition in logic, it is a proposition in which the predicate is non-logically or analytically contained in the subject, which is synthetic, and the truth is verifiably independently of experience. That is, it does not require experience to verify its truth. A synthetic a priori propositions are synthetic but can be said to be true by reasoning. It requires no experience or observation to validate its truth function. For example, some bodies are heavy. In this example, we found out that bodies generally are heavy, but then we don't need an experience to know that some bodies are heavy. By reasoning, we can have such notion that yes, some bodies are heavy. So there is no big deal. The second example is 5 plus 7 equals 12. This truth relies on experience and at the same time requires reasoning because our experience have showed that 5 plus 7 is 12. But then when we ask 5 plus 7, we don't need a further experience to know the truth function of the answer 12. So we know that by reasoning. So it is called synthetic a priori proposition. We hardly find this example in logic, though, but then it is important that we know that. Having considered the notion of proposition in general in this episode, we shall be learning about categorical proposition in our next episode. Categorical propositions are more logical forms of propositions, thus, they are very important in our next lesson. Please stay tuned and watch out for our next episode. Please remember, like I always tell you, logic requires a little patience, and so we have to take them step by step. And these lessons are very important towards the understanding of solving logical problems. For this reason, we have to take it one step at a time, and just like a cycle of life, we must crawl before we walk. So stay tuned.